So the what is the Sanskrit foundation? And so in order to understand what you call as the power of Sanskrit, why it is, why all we are stressing so much on Sanskrit, why not in English, right? Why not in Latin, or why not in a lot of, we have maybe more than 1,000 different, even India itself has about 25 different dialects or different languages. In the whole world, they have so many, at least we can't win. And what is unique about Sanskrit that is not found in other languages is what I want to address here, is that to understand the mantra, which basically mantra is again relying upon the Sanskrit. So the vital aspect of to understand the mantra and Sanskrit itself is to connect the sound and its meaning. And each, so this is very, very unique to Sanskrit. And you don't find, for example, in English, each word is just a word, right? And it doesn't connote that deep sense of oneness with our own being. For example, if you see a words like, like a love or gratitude or, pleasant, so these are very meaning that we kind of associated over by using the term. Just like when I call this as a pen, right? This is pen. That's all it is. I mean, it doesn't say why it is called pen. Why not? If I just say this is like a rock, that still people take it. That's how people, if they get learn about this is a rock, since they're small kid, they take it as a rock, but it doesn't have any proper meaning why it's called rock. But that's not the case with Sanskrit. Actually, you can derive a word using that any object that you have, for example, a television. So all of the radio, this all came later, recent generation. But even for that, Sanskrit's generative nature lets us derive the words like Duravani or Duradarshan. Is Dur means far, Darshan is to see. Duradarshan is like the television. Or Duravani means the Dura is again the distance, Vani means sound. So it's radio, so Duravani. So this kind of generative and very natural sounds only Sanskrit can produce. And uh, and again, as I said earlier, it's a God's language called Deva Bhasha. It is not created by any human. They only heard it, in their deep meditation, and it got revealed, and it went on from there. And lastly, Sanskrit is basically what you call as a poetry of nature. The sounds that the rishis heard, and for a minute fundamental building blocks that they heard in the nature, and it kind of resonates that tattva of that object or that thought or that feeling. So in other words, it is the poetry of a nature around us from where we are born, and it's also the resonance of the cosmic life. The resonance is a very important word, and we'll get to that later on, maybe in a few weeks. And when you talk about the Bindu and Nada, this will come on, will come in detail about that. So I just want to lay the uniqueness, or what are the foundation of Sanskrit and what makes it unique, stand apart from the different languages that are Latin or different derived sources. And so we'll start with the vowels. As you remember, we that was the original plan, is to cover the vowels and consonants and the pronunciation aspect of it, and then cover the basics, or actually the secret behind why they are pronounced the way they are. Uh, the reason why they are written the way they are is uh, is beyond the scope, and I mentioned that briefly in one of the video in Sanskrit Academy, that the script came way further. It was the sound that what makes the Sanskrit the unique, or vowels unique. So the written scripture got a lot of modifications due to different invaders and whatsoever, but but the sounds are very pristine, and which is why the rishis saved it very precariously from the guru disciple, only with the medium of hearing and memorization. And Sri Vidya especially is so important that it's always transferred from guru to disciple, because the faith on guru is very, very important in Sri Vidya. Otherwise, it will only get partial results. That's why they don't really give out. So all of these are very, very foundation of the Sanskrit. And the vowels starts are the fundamental blocks upon which the consonants were built. So remember, I showed you the picture of where we have a human's mouth, a whole anatomy, and I showed where the locations of it. And the vowels are the basic points, the 5 points where we start from the guttural and palatal and cerebral and dental and labial. So on top of that, we have same, they build, consonants build upon them, right? That's a sequence. So, but the vowels are the basic fundamental blocks. That's why they call swara. Swara is a very a sound, swara. And consonant means sparsha. You basically say kha or pa. All of this you touch, but in vowels we don't touch it. It's going to be mostly the air coming out. So it's going to be swara. And that's a unique thing about the vowels versus consonants. And today's session we will dedicate completely upon the three primary vowels a, e, and u, and you'll get to appreciate the depth of the philosophy of Kashmiri Shaivism, non-dualism, if we just by investing time only on these three basic vowels. And these are the building blocks of it starts right from there, and how the creation came and what they personify and what it is. And so so we'll start with a. So the a is, as you see, the basic sound and the root of others. As you see, the basic sound a, like there's not very, very unit. It has nothing complication. It just comes from the bottom or the root of our throat. And all the other letters, even E and everything, even though you don't know, is sound will still contract the throat. That's why they're called vocal cords, right? So you still contract the part over here. That's from where the sound ah. So even though we don't hear it explicitly, it is still there in everything what we chant, every other remaining of 49 alphabets. So that's the basic sound, and that's the root of every other letter. And it denotes the pure existence, which is infinite and void. It has nothing. It is absolutely limitless, and it's unmanifest and changeless supreme being. That's it. It's like more primordial. If you go back to our Kashmiri Shaivism, remember the tattvas that we went over. So that denotes the first Shiva Tattva, which is absolute, pure being. It's unqualified. It's all Prakasha. It is not Vimarsha yet. Vimarsha is the one that reflects upon its own self, but this is at the Prakasha level. And and we'll get actually to let me just take one step back here. So right now, what we are discussing is the walk. Walk is a very important concept in Sanskrit or in Kashmiri Shaivism, where they will go later on further, maybe in a few weeks, about there's a para walk and para. What is para? And there's a very beautiful anuttara and so that's very beautiful concepts we'll cover later on. But all of right now what we are discussing will fall under the umbrella of walk. Walk is the speech or the sound, what we hear, or what we talk, or what we hear is called walk. And so the next one is since now that I just described what is, like the pure absolute being, that is the Shiva Tattva. And as you most of you all know, all the 36 principles that we went through, maybe I can, yeah, okay, we will skip that later on. I'm pretty sure all of you we have a video on the YouTube about the tattvas. You can refer to that. Um, but right now, it suffices to say that the A is a primordial pure being, Shiva. And now comes the E. The E, if you just try to feel that, right? When you say E, you're actually contracting the infinite being that we have, the of supreme being, limitless. Now we are contracting E, and we are focusing that energy now. So the I is very very broad and it's not articulate. It's not specific. It's just okay. It's like ah, right? And but E, you're now focusing your energy on saying E. It's very focused, and you are very articulating the sound now. Than the before it was a very wide, but now you're focusing very articulating that sound to E, and so that's basically done by contraction and focus and direction, right? If you notice the direction, it hits on the top E. So we focus and direction. So that's a unique thing about E, and this compares what I was talking earlier is the articulate versus inarticulate. And the power of, and E also denotes the power of will. So sorry, it's supposed to be reverse here. I is inarticulate and E is articulate. And E here, what you're seeing is the power of will and desire through which creation proceeds. So we have a pure being. There's nothing there. It's just a sound pure A. And then we will say E. Now we're having some desire to contract to get some focused objective. That is a sound called E. And this denotes the power of will and desire through which the creation continues from there. And this, of course, by now you probably guessed it, this is Shakti. The Shakti Tattva that we all have is this unique nature where the Shakti is basically the Vimarsha Tattva in Kashmir, what we discussed earlier, is this, it has the focus of, it actually can reflect upon itself. And that unique, which is focusing that infinite awareness into a specific region is Shakti. So moment the Shakti comes, it actually puts some kind of sheets. We have Maya and all Kanchukas and everything, and that we all already went over that last time. And but E is the Shakti Tattva. And now the U, as you see, when I say U, I basically combine, I just use my lips to make U, right? And so now what this denote is this expansive power and strength is what we have U, right? A, E, U. And it's actually even almost like we have now the creation has taken place, and now it is even more focused, and it's even more strong and focused. And this is basically the Shiva Tattva in a more developed form, pervading everything. So if you remember the same thing with the tattvas there, we also have Shiva Tattva when under the influence of the Maya, right? So that's what we're talking about here. So now the Shiva is the pure being, and then we have E as the Shakti principle, and then comes U, which is Shiva Tattva. Still, it's developed, it's pervading everything, and it is under the within the manifested world, not an unmanifest like the Ah. And so this is basically the Shiva Tattva will be that our capacity to be our expansive nature within the manifested world, which is always trying to go beyond it, but we always and it's this tattva is all over everything what we have, what we can pursue, whether it's you're talking to me or I have touching something, everything, whether in dream state, when you get some dreams, all of them is within the Shiva Tattva principle, this the U Tattva. And so try to feel next time, and maybe after class or right now, if you have some time, just try to feel that the R, E, and U, right? If you say R, it basically holds, it comes from deep within us. When I say ah, right? It comes from inside all of from your abdomen. The sounds come ah, and then get contracted and then comes out. This denotes the energy deep within us that relates to the sense of self or life or being or deep awareness that we all have. Remember that I studied last week, I shared that inspiration of the ocean, where the ocean is a deep awareness of depth and vastness. That's all we all are. We all have that. But and that is denoted by the sound called ah, right? And but since we are focusing on the waves, we cannot, we have all thoughts, all negativities, or whether we're happy or very sorry or very kind of sad, and all of these are like, that's called dualistic world, right? Duals always, everything comes with opposite. You can't have absolute happiness, or you can't have ever absolute sadness. So we had to have both. So that's looking at the waves. So here, going back to the what I'm trying to say here is that the ah sound, um, it holds the energy deep within us, and that gives the sense of self and life and being and deep awareness. So you can try to feel that when you say ah, and this is why I focus more on nyasas. Remember, where I start sessions in the yoga with nyasas, and every puja also we try to purify, we try to bring our awareness about the basic sounds like namaha, am namahamsaha, im namahamsaha, om namahamsa, right? So all of these, each energy that we are activating in our specific part of the body takes our awareness into that level. That was the reason behind I focusing on nyasas. And and if you see the sound of E, it draws energy up in a linear fashion, like E, it comes in a proper line, right? And it's holding the top of the mouth. So that's basically our power of expression and motivation. That kind of our it gives us some expression. You can feel that when try to, just close your eyes and later after the or even right now or even after the class. E gives us like some kind of power of expressing ourselves, some motivation to make a form for the sound which is deep within us. And the next one is oo. Ooh lets us expand outward through the lips and beyond the body, like ooh. So everything sounds goes out now. It doesn't. The E, I is hiding all the way here, and the E is we got it all the way till the top of the mouth, and now the ooh let go all the sound, all the vibration will let out of the lips, out of the body. So this means we are letting all the energy go into manifested outer world, right? So just take a moment and just appreciate the depth and the philosophy of each, every vowel and everything that Sanskrit has. So that's the depth of what we're talking about when it says Sri Vidya, just not like a knowing mantra and like, so you have to have a faith as well as know all the basics of what you are doing and why we are doing the way it is and why you are using sound ah and e, like all of those sounds when you do nyasas. There's a reason why we use specific syllables at specific location, not all over the body. And if you remember the earlier picture on the opening screen of this video, I showed a Purusha. That's called Mantra Purusha. And I wish I can go back. Let's go back. So if you see, this is the Mantra Purusha, right? And this is all right now. What we are doing is im, om, rum, like right now, nostrils and cheeks and mouth and ears. Now, this is the essentially the mantra purusha. This is no matter what tradition you are, whether Sri Vidya or Shaiva or any other, this the mantra purusha doesn't change. It's all over the same because that's the reason why the letters were designed the way they are in Sanskrit. The few more things I want to highlight here is um, the shorter vowels. When you say a, e, u, they have a specific energy, right? And then we have a and e and u. So, so they are what they do is they help us resonate more with that feeling. So, whatever that a has a deep awareness, it adds more resonance. The resonance, right, what I mentioned earlier is like the nada. That resonance makes us feel it more tangibly. And so when you say that it basically it lets us rest in our own being more longer. And again, E lets our energy to move and accelerate. Remember the Shakti, right? The Shakti principle. It lets us move everything and accelerate. Um, the U is basically sustains the expansion. Remember, we're going out and creating a manifest world that lets us, sustain more of that feeling of the resonance with that nature. So, in essence, what it means is that shorter vowels are the Shiva Tattva. or a solar or sun, like Surya Mandala. Like, we call, if you see, if you remember the Yantra Puja, we call Surya Mandala, Agni Mandala, and Soma Mandala. So shorter vowels are solar, they are considered masculine, and they denote the Shiva Tattva. So all of those E, U, Ru, Lu, all of them are the Shiva Tattvas. And then we have longer ones, which is the Shakti. The Shakti principles are all longer. A and E and U and Ru and Lu. So maybe by now someone might have already guessed that the reason why all of our beeja mantras like Aim, Hreem, Shreem, they all end with this kind of longer elongation of that basic sounds to enhance it further, right? So that's the reason why we always use elongated, longer version. That's Shakti principle that gives us more tangible, tangible feeling of what it means. And and so let me see the time, how we are doing. I can just go on this 7:23. Yeah, so I will cover a few the more on let's. This is the Nandikeshwara Kashika. So Nandikeshwara Kashika is very unique way because Nandikeshwara is so Nandikeshwara is a short treatise of 27 sutras. It's actually his one the same name is called Nandikeshwara, and he is at the same time is a contemporary of Patanjali. And the Nandikeshwara sutras are very unique because it actually they consider that as to be before tantric. There's a tantric, pre-tantric, and tantric. Before tantras began evolving, and before and after that. So they consider this as before the tantras originated, and they give the metaphysical interpretations of the Maheshwara Sutrani. So most of you might remember the sounds that I made a video in Sanskrit Academy of illustrating all of the sounds of the 14 sets of the consonants and vowels together. They are called Maheshwara Sutrani, right? So Nandikeshwara Sutras, they specifically pick on that, and they give a commentary with the metaphysical interpretations to that. So it takes very important, and it's called Pratyahara Sutras also. They also so I will go in Pratyahara Sutras later next week. It is basically Panini in his Ashtadhyayi. The Ashtadhyayi is the one who is what Panini wrote, where he set up the laid out rules of grammar and what are the alphabets and why they are important. But for that, he groups them into pratyaharas, and I'll show that next week. And but other aspect that is important to discuss here is that the Nandikeshwara Sutras, uh, um, in other words, so there are three ways we can arrange the whole of the alphabets in Sanskrit. One, there are three types. So one is the Maheshwara Sutrani, which we went over the 14 sutras that we all know how to chant. Number two is the logical arrangement of phonemes. Phoneme is like alphabets, like E, or Ka, Ka, Ga, Ga. They're called phonemes in English. That's a better word because they have a sound units. And unlike English, you can't mix, like for example, in A in another is different. Well, A, or A doesn't retain the sound, its purity at any location. It can change, it can sound different in different words in English. But in Sanskrit, it's called phonetic language. That's why computers love Sanskrit, because it has a logical structure, and for both the grammar as well as the sound, with way it sounds. The R doesn't change between words in unlike in its English. That's why I use the word phenome to highlight that aspect. So and so that's the first one is Maheshwara Sutrani. Second one is a regular arrangement of what we discussed so far in our previous classes on vowels and consonants. The number third is Malini. Malini is, you will hear this name very, very often in Lalita Sahasranamam and also across Sri Vidya in Yantra Pujas also. Malini is a different way of organizing this alphabets. So there's three different ways of organizing, and Nandikeshwara Sutras, they use the Maheshwara Sutranis or the Pratyaharas of Panini. That's why they consider very important, and it's very easy to know the sequence of it. So um, so I just give you a brief some of the verses of Nandikeshwara Sutras. It's very, I think, as I said, about 27 sutras. There are not a lot of them, but I'll just give you only four verses to show the power, the beauty of the metaphysical explanation of each phenomenon that the Nandikeshwar wrote. So the first one defines the phenomenon A or A, sorry. The A is he calls it as a chitkala. Chitkala means the power of consciousness that we all like deep being, what I was talking earlier. That is the power of the A sound. And this and when it's actually assuming the Jagat Rupa, it's just about to assume the form, right? It's called Jagat Rupa. Before that, the sound A comes. And and the second verse says the A is first of all letters, and it's pure light. And he says that by combining the first and the last of the vowels, you get the whole being, like A and Ha, right? A, I, U, Ru, Lu, A, I, O, Aha, right? So when you combine A and the other one Aha, you get the whole of the whole cosmos within us. That's why we call Aham. Say Aham Brahmasmi, right? So look at the beauty of this all these authors. There's no way they can get this by their own volition. It's got to be a God's divine inspiration behind they coming up with this pristine knowledge for the humanity's benefit, right? The aham, when I say aham, ahankara, right? Ahankara means ahankara, we associate very negatively ahankara because of all attachments, with all this Kali Yuga. But aham, the word ahamkara, in the word ahankara, it means aham, the entirety of my being. So whether it be because of our attachments, it can be very negatively. We take, okay, I'm getting depression, I'm having fear, I'm getting anxiety. That's all end product of what we make. It's just like a knife, right? You can use a knife for cooking, or or for decorating, or making some good, stationery, like some kind of beautiful things, or you can use for harming others. Similarly, we have aham. We have equal potential, like your aham and my aham. We have equal potential, but because of a lack of knowledge, or because of mayas, the kanchkas, we get covered, and we shine that light in different ways. So similarly, the aham also takes different form, and it gets colored by our personality, and that's why it's called aham, the whole of the entire being of yourself. And the next one is the now verse 7 is also a good one. It says, through its proximity to letter A, from where it having produced the world, the letter E, the Shakti power, and is said to be the causal power, which is we just discussed earlier. So I'm just kind of giving up a proper reference to what I was talking earlier. So, and I'm just not waking up on the fly. So it's everything has a scriptural reference to what I'm saying. So the verse 7 says that the A being close to the sound E, like we see A, E, U, Ru, Lu, right? So the next one is E. So they consider E is next to Shiva, so that becomes Shakti. And the Shakti is the causal power. And the letter, the A is the nature of perception, the like being or awareness, right? And the letter E is a pure chitkala, pure consciousness. And the U is a Vishnu or pervasive power. We can call Vishnu, he mentioned Vishnu there. And in Kashmir Shaivism, we consider as a Shiva, because Shiva also got covered and it considered as a Vishnu, right? And maybe some and maybe some one of those smart ones among our group might be able to relate why the name Shiva, Shakti, and Vishnu came, right? And that's the reason because Shiva, the word ending with ah, right? Shiva, and it highlights the word ah, and that means the nature of perception. He's a pure ultimate being. And Shakti, the Shakti word ends with e, and that's a pure consciousness. And that's a Shakti, I mean, sorry, the or actual the that the causal world which has been created or manifested. And the U is the pervasive power which is in the all after it is manifested, and it totally pervades the whole every atom of the creation. That's why it's called Vishnu, right? There's a reason. Look at the beauty. The words also are designed as per the names of gods. Everything has been designed as per the letters, as per the basic foundation of the Sanskrit, the sounds of what we have. And I think I'm going a little more by time. Uh, let's see, 7:33. I can probably, yeah. So now we'll just conclude right here. Just one more topic. I just want here. I want to see highlight the power of the beeja aksharas. So okay, so. So here is the so remember what I just said is the A stands for the absolute, right? Absoluteness um, slash being, and I said E stands for the Shakti, and U stands for the causal world or the yeah or the God or the being or the Lord who is of the manifested world, right? And so when now if you see if I combine A plus R plus E and that oh sorry where is this yeah and R plus E becomes I'm, right? So what I'm means, I means it's the absolute plus the Shakti Tattva. So in other words, this is the Adya Shakti, right? So that's why you see Aim or Aim Hrim Shrim or like all mantras. What for example Chandi also we say Aim Hrim Glim Chamundai Vichai, or or if you see our Sri Vidya Aim Hrim Shrim, right? The Aim denotes the Adya Shakti power that we have. And now if you go with A plus U, the A again is absoluteness and U is manifested. So that manifested version of the absoluteness will be called the Purusha, Adi Purusha, right? So in other words, this is Adi Purusha, um, because we have the Adi, which is the original one, but that is under the manifested existence. So that's why we call, and that becomes what? Om. So now we see why you call Om as Pranavanada. Pranavanada, that's to say, the Pranava is the sound of the whole of the manifested world, cosmos. It's like Om, 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 right? So that's why we call it as a Om. It's a complete awareness, complete being of this whole manifested existence that we live in. And so, and I think I just want to highlight the beauty of how the Bijaksharas are formed to connote their specific concepts, specific power of or aspect of this creation that we do not know, but if you know it, you'll actually can appreciate, and you can try to focus more when you chant the nyasas or the pujas. But I just want to highlight that the beauty of Sanskrit is very, it's that's no wonder it's called as Sanskrit, because its sum is very well, and krit is done. So Sanskrit is very well done, which you can see right here. And I can just keep talking forever, but I may have to stop here. Um, so I'm like, I hope I was able to convey my enthusiasm about this language. But if you have any questions, you please let me know right now. Does any of you feel very happy about it? Like, just look at the beauty of Sanskrit, right? I mean, there's so much thought, so much of wealth of knowledge that the rishis has placed in it, that they're just beyond comprehension. And the only way we can really appreciate is by doing more sadhana and try to feel it within us and try to manifest it. And we can, in other ways, we are actually going from manifested world back to the unmanifest by practicing these things slowly, day by day. And as I keep practicing more, we'll get into the bhavana. And so yeah, I can take any questions before we get on to the next one.
Just a small sharing, Swamiji.
Yeah.
Till now, I have been practicing Omkar. I was practicing for a couple of times. But this gives a totally different perspective to that Omkar. When we chant the sound, I mean, it's beyond expression, when you were telling me, I was simultaneously chanting. You said, no, you contract, you see the linear expansion and you see the outward expansion. Actually, yes, I was doing it and it was an amazing experience. That's it.
Yes, it is. You just, need to have time to experience that and, the interest. And, but yeah, just totally hats off to our forefathers who really gave us this opportunity to let us, use this. And just imagine how much we are really chanting without awareness, right? All the while this is so much of depth in the creation that we don't have. And CV is actually very popular because just for this reason, because a lot of traditions were there, like this Kula tradition and Sri Vidya tradition, and like Marni, and there's Kubjika Tantra, Kubjika tradition. But Sri Vidya is the only one who is able to retain everything in its entirety because of the secret, passing on from lineage, all these generations. And but yes, I'm with you on that. I'm totally can. Yes, absolutely.
And Swamiji, any reference material book for this Maheshwara Sutrani and Nandikeshwar Sutrani?
Maheshwara Sutrani and Nandikeshwar, we just had to read Panini Ashtadhyayi. There's nothing much. I mean, they'll be here and there on website, I mean, on online somewhere, but you won't have authority to, you can just pick any Ashtadhyayi, because Ashtadhyayi starts with this Maheshwara Sutranis. It actually says this is what, the Shiva Nataraja played the Damaru, and this sounds came. And then actually he used Pratyaharas. And by say Pratyaharas is that he uses some small codes, like I will show that next week. So it takes like a short mnemonics to refer to the whole set of each of those sutras. That's what's called Pratyahara. And but yeah, otherwise there is no much. You just had to refer to original tradition scripts where they explain these sutras in in Devanagari. But you had to know grammar and all that. But yeah, this is very well, and they are very good books. For example, I don't know what aspects of this is covered. Tantra Loka is very good, Tantra Sara, but I haven't read completely. I know people quote that quite often, and this, but yeah, this we'll cover. Don't worry. I mean, if you have any question, let me know. I'll make it more understandable. Otherwise, the very huge voluminous books like Kashmiri Shaivism, there's no way you can just start from there and pick up something and they understand that. You have to follow the whole tradition.
Something?
Yeah.
Swamiji, when we try to read those books, which, if you're interested, people can find online, they're all available. My realization is that it is at this moment of my evolution, at least it's so theoretical that it is just more confusing rather than anything. Doing sadhana right now seems to be easier and better for me personally. Just 2 cents that I want to make.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because sadhana certainly, but just that's exactly why I introduced this, so that it doesn't overwhelm you all at once, and taking it a small bit, piecemeal by piecemeal, and we'll eventually build up the whole corpus of Kashmir Shaivism by the next 2 years, or so. But certainly, but thing is, the reason I want to highlight is that now that you know how much each sound or alphabet has significance, you can pay more attention when you do nyasas, and then that attention also seeps into your puja vidhi also, right? Otherwise your mind just like you say am namaha, I'm thinking about client, I had to go to office now, I met a lot of traffic, that's your mind is gonna go here and there, right? But if you focus, bring it back, like back onto the actual syllables, the vibrations, like if you try to feel the vibration when you do that, your mind stays there, it doesn't wander like monkey mind, right? Well, that's why I call it, just wanders here and there. So we try to bind it with actual, that's why, Sri Vidya is like, I'm very picky about being able to practice that every day. I think we have about 4 or 5 people, I have to drop them off because they doesn't do every day. There's pure waste of my time and their time. And just like coming for theory and satsangs and weekly satsang doesn't, it's okay, but it's more supplementary what I'm giving you. Main thing is to do the sadhana, and then these satsang will add on by giving more focus on sadhana. So
I have a Swamiji, the Pratyahar Sutra that you are mentioning here are same as the Panini Pratyahar Sutras are same as Patanjali Pratyahar or
no,
different?
Pratyahara is Panini. Ashtadhyayi.
Okay. No, but even in Ashtanga Yoga also, Pratyahar is one of the aspect of Ashtanga Yoga also, right?
Pratyahara is going inside. That's Ashtanga Yoga, but this is Pratyaharas are the specific mnemonics that they gave for each of the. I will show next week. We'll get to that. We'll start with that next week, and then we'll But yeah, so Kashmir Shaivism, we have tons of books you can buy or read online, but they assume that you know some specific aspects of knowledge. So it's probably tough to find head or tail if you pick up some book and right away read. But as you follow the concepts, for example, last time we discussed about the tattvas, right? That gave you some foundation. That's where the whole starts with. And then right now we're talking about walk, how this, for example, eventually we'll get into Vaikari, Madhyama, and Pashyanti, right? The Pashyanti, these are the parts. Each sound has a different levels of existence. And we will cover that later, but you will see the words Pashyanti, Madhyama, and Vaikari. So I know those of you who are more in Lalita Sahasranama, they can remember Pashyanti, Parameshwari, Madhyama, Vaikari, Rupa, right? These are all coming from Kashmir Shaivism into Lalita Sahasranama, or it's kind of a mutual symbiosis. It's not like borrowed. So if you know this thing, you can chant with meaning and more awareness next time, Lalita Sahasranam, when we come to that. But yeah, we'll cover even more in depth the names. But right now, I just want to focus on pronunciation and the basics foundation. So next time when we're done with this, we can easily attempt at interpreting with a more better context each of the names of Lalita Sahasranam.
I have a question, Swamiji.
Yes.
So you're mentioning about short vowels being Shiva, masculine, and Surya, and then long vowels are Shakti, but it'd be the feminine or Chandra. Would they correspond to Lagu for short vowels and Guru for long vowels?
Yeah.
Summing it up, for me, actually today, what you've just taught us has helped me to kind of integrate both with what I've learned before. So now I can feel it.
Actually, we can feel, we'll actually build up more upon this.
It's more meaningful is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yes. So, in fact, like when you say Hamsaha, right? Like Soham Hamsaha, they also have meaning in similar context, just like how we derived word aham to represent the absoluteness of our being. Like about aim and om, we also derive some for example, hasak frame, hasak shamala varayum. So all of those from last year batch, if you guys know the Guru Paduka mantras, so all of them have very important connotations for all of them. And so these are the main foundations for formation of each of those bija aksharas.